Several fans who scored the fight for Bivol admit Beterbiev won after rewatching the fight. We're going to take a look at some tweets from people who watched the fight again and either came to a new conclusion or a different conclusion. So we're taking a look at According to Boxing, who wrote Beterbiev versus Bivol rematch. I had Beterbiev win in rounds 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. He actually controlled the fight the majority of the time and landed the most significant punches. Many of Bivol's punches were actually blocked and rolled, which is a testament to his defense. The 116-112 card wasn't as off as most think. So here you have someone who rewatched the fight and actually found 8 rounds that they scored for Artur Beterbiev upon the outrage with the 116-112 score. If you watch the video I posted with my reaction to the fight, given the reasons why I think Artur Beterbiev won, I told you I already had the fight 8-4, and I thought Beterbiev won 8 rounds in the fight, and I explained why I thought Beterbiev won the 8 rounds, which is in line with what was tweeted by According to Boxing. Of course, I knew this immediately after watching the fight. I tweeted my scorecard immediately after the fight, before the scorecards were even announced. But it's nice to see that someone rewatched the fight and actually was honest enough to admit that the scorecards weren't off and that Artur Beterbiev actually won. So we're going to take a look at another tweet right now, and then we're going to discuss what was stated. So this tweet says, 115, 113, Beterbiev is how I scored it on a rewatch. And there were plenty of close rounds. I agree that the judges need to be held accountable in combat sports, but this is not one of those situations. Saturday's fight was extremely close. 116, 112 is not a terrible scorecard. And this was in reaction to Dmitry Bivol's promoter saying that he's going to file a protest because the 116, 112 scorecard was ridiculous. And again, this is what I was trying to tell people when I stated what I said. Originally, when I posted my scorecard, I had people coming at me saying I was crazy. You don't know boxing. You know, the dirty term they like to throw around, casual. But I'm not the casual. You're actually the casual because you're the one who's swayed by commentary. You're the one who's swayed by your own personal bias because you want to see Dmitry Bivol win. I want a fighter to win, but once the bell rings, I give the fight to the fighter I think deserves the fight. I don't do all that bias stuff. I tell it the truth. I tell it how it is. I tell what I really see, how I really feel. That's what I do. So people who were once saying that I was crazy, and now you got these people rewatching the fight after a crime robbery and after the outrage, and they're saying, look, I actually agree with the decision. I don't think it was as terrible as originally thought. But that's how easy it is to go with the crowd. All right, so we're going to take a look at another tweet from someone who rewatched the fight and came to a different conclusion, or should I say affirmed the conclusion. So here you have a Box Frog, and it tweeted, after a rewatch, yeah, Beterbiev won. The rounds Bivol won were clearer, and he had clearer spurts throughout the fight, but Beterbiev would keep the volume up consistently, and his body work went unnoticed by commentators. What a surprise. My favorite round to score was 7. Watch it. It was tough. So you see here the scorecard posted by this individual. And you see round 7 gave it to Artur Beterbiev, which I did as well. I thought Artur Beterbiev had Bivol in trouble, and he was lucky that the bell rung. But some people may have swung that to Dmitry Bivol. And you see his scorecard. His or her scorecard, because it does, I don't know. But again, you see the scorecard right here. So, like I said, the outrage and people talking the trash, we're going to get into that in a second. But you see now, people rewatching the fight, and they're seeing like, oh, yeah, this was closer than I thought, or the right person won. I was being swayed by commentary and public outcry. And so this is the last tweet that I'm going to show you. But it states, I can see how Beterbiev won after rewatching. So you can see this person. I can see how he won now. So based on what this person is tweeting, you can tell already they rewatched the fight to confirm what everyone was screaming, what they probably already thought, which was, oh, this was a robbery, and then watched it again and said, oh, this looks nothing like what I watched. Well, why is that? Because if you're in an atmosphere where everyone's rooting for one person, if you go online and you see people being outraged, it makes you start to question what you saw. Now, I did a video on this before, but it reminds me of Lennox Lewis versus Evander Holyfield. Now, I'm from the United States of America. I remember watching that fight thinking Lennox is whooping Holyfield. And I was rooting for Holyfield. I wanted Holyfield to win. But what I was watching, I couldn't trick myself into thinking like, yeah, Evander's no punk. Evander's a very skilled fighter. So of course Evander's gonna land some good punches here and there, which he did. And of course he's gonna win some exchanges, but overall it was evident Lennox Lewis won the fight. So when the fight was a draw and Evander Holyfield got to keep his title, I was torn because people celebrated in the room with me. They were celebrating and they were like, yeah, Holyfield got the belt. He still kept the belt. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, this is wrong. I know who won, but because I was around a bunch of people saying one thing and I didn't want to be the outcast, I didn't want to be the one who was perceived as not knowing what I watched. I just went along with it. And then as I got older, I would see fights like that in my life. I remember Oscar De La Hoya, Felix Sturm. I was like, I thought Sturm did enough, but they gave it to Oscar, and you could even see Bernard Hopkins. Because Oscar moved up in weight to fight Bernard, and Bernard even came in there trying to convince people that Oscar De La Hoya won that fight. I think of Andre Dirrell versus Carl Froch. I spoke about this. I stand on it. Andre Dirrell beat Carl Froch in Nottingham, England, and he didn't get the decision because the crowd, the judges, and that's a robbery. Those were robberies. You can go watch the fights. But I never really said anything because I didn't want to go against the grain. So the more confident I became in myself, just as a man, just as a person, I said, I'm always going to call the fights the way I see the fights. I'm never going to let people dictate and determine what I see. I'm going to call it what I see. I'm going to call it like I see it. Because there are people who have their own bias. Like some people in the comment section were like, even Andre Ward, the great Andre Ward, the GOAT, Andre Ward said that Bivol won, so Bivol won. That trumps your opinion. Like, one, if you think that way, you are a fool. You probably let celebrities tell you how to vote. But the other thing is, right, you have to look at it from a realistic perspective as an adult. Andre Ward didn't get re-signed as a commentator by Top Rank. They kept Timothy Bradley. They got rid of Andre Ward. Andre Ward is part of Shakur Stevenson's management team. They weren't happy with the deal that he received. I think it was 4 fights, 15 million, or 3 fights, 15 million, 15 million along those lines. They weren't happy with it. So they left Top Rank and signed with Matchroom and DAZN. So you mean to tell me the guy who wasn't re-signed by Top Rank, Andre Ward, whose fighter didn't get the contract he liked from Top Rank, Shakur Stevenson, who's now working with Eddie Hearn, DAZN and Matchroom, which improved their relationship so much to the point that Eddie Hearn actually went on Andre Ward's new boxing show that's on All the Smoke. Eddie Hearn got interviewed by Andre Ward. So you mean to tell me he has no bias, right? So the GOAT, Andre Ward, just said, there's a reason why former fighters aren't judges. Oh, well, Sean Porter said, first of all, Sean Porter was never a boxing IQ guy. He was a pit bull guy. He went in the ring and he just stayed on you, smothered his work, smothered your work, made it so ugly to do anything. That's what he did. High activity pit bull style boxing. That's what Sean Porter was. So let's not act like Sean Porter is the boxing IQ guy. But even if you want to act like he is, again, remember who Sean Porter is. He's a guy who fought on PBC. Fought for Al Heyman, PBC, his entire career. He was a part of that across the street stuff with Terrence Bud Crawford. And in fact, he was the first head across the street that Terrence Crawford crossed the street to crack. And Terrence Crawford was with Top Rank at that time. Remember, it was the big Top Rank PBC stable. Bud Crawford would dominate PBC's whole welterweight stable. Went over there, cracked Sean Porter. After boxing, Sean Porter retires. After boxing, Sean Porter is a commentator for PBC and who? The Zone. The Zone. Matchroom. So you don't think that plays a role in who he thinks won the fight? The fighter that's with Eddie Hearn, Matchroom in The Zone. You don't think that plays a role in how he scored his fight? If you want to see his integrity be compromised, go watch the Nate Diaz fight. Nate Diaz is fighting Jorge Madrimov, I believe his name is. And look at Sean Porter's scorecard for that fight. He was pandering for Nate Diaz because it was clearly a Nate Diaz production, a Nate Diaz card, a Nate Diaz crowd. And Madrimov was doing way better. In fact, I can't remember my scorecard for that fight, but I think Madrimov won, and they were just gassing up every little thing Nate Diaz won. Go won. So don't tell me Sean Porter is this guy whose integrity and you got to trust what Sean Porter says. Man, stop it. This is what I'm trying to tell you. I call it like I see it, regardless of what people are going to say about me, regardless of what you think, because at the end of the day, I know all I have is my word, and you know what? And if you hear from me, you know I believe it. That's all I'm saying. So now you see these people who were once going along to get along, going back and rewatching it and saying, yo, I was out of line. But I'm going to end this video. We're going to watch this video with an interview. Anthony Yard was speaking with this guy. Now watch this interview, because during this interview, you're going to see this dude actually scores the fight for Bivol. And he's thinking that they're going to confirm what he thought, which was that Bivol won. But you can see that as they're telling him, this guy who probably thought like he's the type of guy who would call someone a casual if they didn't have his scorecard. But now he's sitting with a boxing trainer and he's sitting with Anthony Yard, and you see he gets uncomfortable, and watch the way he sneaks in. Oh yeah, but I scored it for just watch.
The 116, 112 was again appalling. I will see it as this. As a fight, Beterbiev won. The most I would have been okay with is a draw. But if they gave it to Bivol, I would have said, "Ooh."
Would you?
Yeah, I would have
Really
said. I would have said how.
How did you have it from home?
So see, he says 116, 112 is appalling, but if they would have gave it to Bivol, he would have said, "Oh, how?" This is what I mean when people just say stuff. It's the pressure, because you don't want to seem like you don't want to say you scored at 116, 112 because everyone's crying robbery. So you feel like if you say it's 116, 112, people are going to look at you like you don't know boxing. Who cares? You know what you're talking about. The reason why you felt like the most you can see it for Bivol is 114, 114, is you admitting that most of the time the fight was being dominated by Beterbiev. So now he asked Anthony Yard, how did you score it at home? Now let's listen.
I had it 7-5 to Beterbiev.
Did you?
I had it
A lot of people did.
Yeah.
And some people had it.
That is the card, isn't it?
Yeah.
7-5 Beterbiev. Again, we talked about this. I talked about it in the video, my original reaction to it. 116, 112 is a matter of one round going to Beterbiev. It's a 1 round difference. So if you scored at 115, 113, and I scored at 116, 112, that means we have a 1 round difference. So I gave one more round to Beterbiev. And you can go to the 7th round, which is a round that was a swing. There were so many rounds that could have been a swing round in this fight. So for people to act like it's ridiculous that someone may have had a 116, 112, as you saw in some of the earlier tweets, people are just, that's like casual way of thinking. There wasn't definitive, clear rounds like that. They were competitive and there were some swings. So again, this is the talking point, but we'll keep listening.
7-5 either way or a draw is what I would
100%.
say 75% of people that watched it, 85% of people, that's what they would have.
And the last 2 rounds were so important.
He wasn't getting hit with a lot of those shots that Bivol was throwing. A couple of times Bivol landed some clean shots. But, Bivol was genuinely fine with coming back with that right and left hook, right hand.
Yeah. Okay. Let me
Not
just
all
counter
of
that. Let me
Both
counter your
ways,
right hand.
yeah.
Just
So that's the thing. A lot of people are talking about punch percentage in punch stats. One, Arthur Beterbiev landed more punches and he threw way more punches. How you're in a championship fight and you throw under 600 punches? Like, that's not what people aren't talking about enough, is the fact that Arthur Beterbiev threw over 1,000 punches and Dimitri Bivol threw under 600. So you mean to tell me one guy is throwing punches at you and you're not returning fire? You're returning very little fire and you get hurt the most. But again, that's another thing that's being underrated is Beterbiev's defense.
Just say, but when Beterbiev was, I mean, I love it when someone kitchen sink job. No, he's not wild, but he's just relentless. Coming. He's coming. The last 3 rounds, he was coming. But I would also say I thought Bivol was very tight, lovely high guard, and I didn't think that he got caught any more than Beterbiev when Bivol was throwing, if that makes sense. There was
their faces will tell you.
Well, he got caught more because Beterbiev landed more punches by punch stats. So if you go by those numbers, then he landed more. He certainly threw more. And if you want to say he didn't get hurt anymore, I have to disagree. You saw in the 11th round, some people could even score that a 10-8 round. In the old days, that's probably a 10-8 round. And in the good old days, where they used to score a dominant round 10-8, even when the fighter didn't touch the floor.
Do you subscribe to that?
The faces will tell you. So it's like the punches that were getting through clean. I'll be honest with you. If Beterbiev was hitting him clean and they were landing on his face, we would have seen the damage. But I think it's that thing. Okay, if none of them were punching off, they were both. If Bivol wasn't punching, but Beterbiev was hitting him and hitting gloves, who's winning?
Yeah, the man.
The man that's throwing the punch.
And I did
exactly. If Bivol's doing nothing and Beterbiev is punching him and he's hitting gloves and he's hitting shoulders, who's winning? Who's winning? That's the point I'm making. It's 3 minutes of a round. You don't just fight 20 seconds of a round and then think you get the round. That, again, in amateurs where they count each punch as being equal, you can get away with something like that if you land 3 in the 20-second flurry. But in the pro game, that's not how it is. A pro fight is a show. People pay to watch you. People pay to be in them seats. They don't want to reward someone who's moving around, avoiding throwing punches and waiting to the last minute to try to steal a round. They want the person trying to make the fight every minute of the fight, every second of the fight.
I think if there's one criticism of Bivol, is that he either Beterbiev took it away from him or he went away from what was working. He almost timed that right hand over the top as he was coming in, just went whack. Yeah. And I did think to myself, God, this is high quality stuff, mate. From ringside, I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah.
Now here it is. Him admitting upon reflection, either this guy upon reflection and rewatching realized that Artur Beterbiev won the fight, or he's in that situation now where he's with 2 guys who picked Beterbiev, so now he can't be acting like they don't know boxing because Anthony Yard is a pro fighter and has been in the ring with Artur Beterbiev and other really good fighters, and this other guy is a boxing trainer. So now you see he's in a position where he has to humble himself, and he can go against the grain, but the way he's speaking is like he now believes Beterbiev won. But if he really doesn't believe that Beterbiev won, he's now doing that thing where he doesn't want to come off as seeing like he doesn't know boxing. So he says this. Just watch.
I did think to myself, God, this is high quality stuff, mate. From ringside, I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah. I thought it was a Bivol win.
So from ringside, I got to be honest with you. I thought it was a Bivol win, meaning he no longer thinks that. Whether it's true that he no longer thinks that, or he's just saying that because they disagree with him, this is my point when it comes to the sport of boxing. That's why, regardless of what people say about you, regardless of how much they try to act like you don't know what you're talking about, if you're just being honest about what you saw, that's all you can do. Like I stated the day of the fight, and like I'm stating now, because I watched it again and I scored it the same. I believe Artur Beterbiev won the fight against Dimitri Bivol, 116, 112. I stand on that. And it's nice to see that some people are actually admitting that after rewatching the fight, they now see that Arthur Beterbiev won. All right, let me know what you think in the comment section. Hey, to all my new subscribers, thank you. I really appreciate you. Hey, hit the like button. Get me to 1,000. Have a good day. I'm out. Peace.